So what we'll do is I'll ask some questions to our panelists, common questions and things that you might want to know about student life. We also have many other virtual events coming up for different subject areas. And towards the end of this webinar, I will share some links for you in case you would like to attend any of our other webinars. So I think I will start off by asking each of our panelists what, oh sorry, now I lost my first question, of course, but a very key question. Why did you choose your program and why Lund University? So perhaps we'll go around in the same order again, and I can start with you guys.
Thank you for the question. I would briefly comment that this is a very common question that I face, why I picked architecture and why I picked Lund University. It's a very strong question. Sometimes I also question myself this, but it helps me strengthen my motive. So, I mean, I have a background in studying architecture. I finished my bachelor's degree in architecture from Malaysia, and from Malaysia, when I returned back to Bangladesh, I was practicing as an architect, but for further career progress, I could not. I was having obstacles registering as an architect in my own country because I had I was underqualified, I would say, because I didn't have enough academic training to register as an architect. So they proposed that I should pursue a master's degree. From there, I looked around and I was more curious. I was more into the programs rather than the country. So Lund University offered what I wanted to specialize in. So it's advanced architectural design, along with Lund University proposing that they have spatial experiments, which is working with robotics and working on fabrication and 3D printing. And this is something that I really wanted to learn and want to enhance my career into. So yes, that's how I thought Lund University would really help proceed with my career or proceed with my journey with architecture. And I think I can, I'm learning a lot, and it's really shape-shifting my thought process and designing goals. So, yeah.
Thank you. Donaldo?
For me, when I did my bachelor's, I had the chance to come to Sweden for the first time for an exchange program in another Swedish university. And back then it was for a design engineering program. And I also had the chance to come to Lund for my thesis. So I heard, that's where I first heard of the industrial design masters at Lund University. And afterwards, I went back to Mexico, worked in this industry for 2 years, about give or take 2 years. And I started questioning myself, like, what are the next steps and what do I want to do going forward as an industrial designer? And I saw the program at Lund University and many of the collaborations that the program has with the industry. And I thought it was going to be a good opportunity to challenge myself and to just get back to school and learn again, be a student again after working. And then since I was working in urban equipment mostly, I thought, like, what a great place to be in Sweden, because urban equipment, playgrounds is just perfect in most of Scandinavia. So I also took it as a chance to explore this area as well.
Brilliant. And finally, Mutaz?
Yeah, for me, my story is a bit focused on Scandinavia in general. I practiced architecture for 3 years after graduation in Jordan, but then I thought I want to be active, to be in action in terms of climate and in terms of sustainability. And the best place to be in for practicing and learning about human-oriented design and landscape and nature, the biodiversity, taking care of a human being as a part of the whole natural image is in Scandinavia. and especially in Sweden. I read a lot about the programs that offered in different countries, but I felt like I am more yeah, I felt like sustainable urban design in Lund is the most suitable one for me, and it met my expectations. To be honest, it's really interesting program, and yeah, I'm learning a lot about these topics.
I'm really glad to hear that. And I think that in general, it's fair to say that Sweden does have a very good reputation for sustainability and being interested in that topic. So I understand why that might feel like a good fit. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So perhaps now I could ask, oh, and I forgot to say to you all as well, of course, if anyone wants to add something after someone has answered, you should feel free to do so. So yeah, if something gets asked that you just want to add something to, please do let everyone hear that. But yeah, so now I'm kind of curious about what your classes and the academic environment look like, and what kind of structure your week would take in terms of lectures and other kinds of activities. So maybe we'll go around in opposite order. And Mutaz, would you like to answer first?
Sure. So I'll go a bit in detail in our program. So it's like 4 semesters, 2 years, and 3 of them you will be having classes and projects that you need to deliver. And for the last one is your thesis. So we have like the structure generally that basically we have flexible schedule. We have some lectures throughout the week, and most of the time it's a group work or project work for yourself to work on the projects. The best part about it that there's no grades or competition in the program, so you feel like you're working with everybody, and there's no like sense of yeah, of competition between peers. So you feel like you're in a healthy environment, a healthy education. Yeah.
Great. Donaldo?
Yeah, it's also 4 semesters, the industrial design program. And likewise, we rarely have like a proper grade, so to say. So it's mostly focused on your learning outcomes from these projects. And also you never really get a very defined design brief, as is often the case in most design universities. It's pretty much you redefining and just defining the way of your way forward in some projects, and also tailoring these these assignments and projects into your own personal interests. So I think that's a really I think that's like the key element of the industrial design masters, that it's never really forced on you like, oh, you should learn this and this and that, but it's rather you deciding what are you going like yeah, what are your interests, and then just diving deeper into these topics.
Is that the same for you, Baiyazeed?
It's I would say Mutaz and Donaldo, they both have answered my part. I mean, it's very similar. We also have a four semester structure for 2 years in masters, and similarly, we don't have there is no specific grading system. So we're more working communally in a community, so less competition within the peer work. So it's more everyone helping each other. And I would also like to add, since the program is more international, so you get to work with people from different culture, and that way you get to learn not just from the program, but you also learn about your peers and how their architecture or their system works. So it's not, you're just broadening your knowledge, just not by just study, but you're making friends, you're learning about them. And the teachers are very productive. They're very helpful. They're always there. We're more than happy to they email them, contact them as much as we need, and they come to the studio, they check on our projects and ask questions. So they try to build a good relation within the students, and it helps. It makes us feel more comfortable. We I mean, it encourages us to be in the studio more than staying home and working. So
That's really good. That's great to hear. And that's actually raised a couple of really important areas that I think people would be interested to hear about. So perhaps, Donaldo, do you have anything to add about the relationship between the teachers and the students and the way that that works on your program?
Sure. I mean, it's pretty horizontal. I mean, yet again, like coming back to my previous answer, you're never really told like, oh, you should do this or that or that. It's rather, and it's also like from the professor's perspective, they're not assuming like, oh, I am the expert and I'm passing this knowledge to the student. It's more of a we are trying to figure out the best way to solve this problem together kind of a situation.
That sounds great. And is that the same for you, Mutaz?
Yeah, I would say it's the same. And we always feel like we're learning a lot from our peers, as Baiyazeed said. We're like in my class, we're 17 students from 15 countries. And we're, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's like super diverse from 5 continents, and like, yeah, we learn from each other. We learn from the whole projects and tasks, and we have a lot of lectures, by the way, from people in the industry that adds another layer of understanding how things work. It's not only academia or theory. No, we have like lectures and visits actually to some. To some places in the industry where we get to know exactly what's happening out there, and yeah, connect the academia with the practice.
Brilliant. And I guess it's kind of something that you're all starting to touch on here, but it sounds like your programs are very international. In terms of the picture of students in your class, you've already mentioned, Mutaz, about the 15 countries, 17 people in 15 countries. Donaldo, is your program also similarly international?
I mean, we're not from 15 different nations, but I think it's around 4 or 5 different countries that we have students from. So in that sense, it's also quite varied. Unlike maybe, I don't know, it could be a general thought to think that it's mostly Swedes, but I'd say could be half of the class Swedes and the rest is just the international students.
Okay, and how big is your class, Donaldo?
Right now, we're less than when we started because also some of them I mean, they left to pursue internships.
Right.
But right now we are around 20 and we started like around 30 students.
Yeah, okay, cool. And Baiyazeed, you also mentioned already that it's an international program and you have lots of interaction and group work with others from different nations. But what does that kind of look like for your class?
Well, honestly, I rarely see locals in our group. It's morely international. So, but I mean, there. I'm not like they're not actually there, but some of them are similar to Donaldo. Like some of them came back from internships, or they were doing the 5-year program, but they took a break in between. So we see new students, or we share courses with other programs. Suppose I remember last semester I shared a course which with other sustainable urban design students, with Mutaz and everyone. So it's all interconnected. So you meet new students, and it's a big shuffle. So you will see every semester you'll see a new batch of students, and they're from different programs, and we all share common courses within these programs. And it's nice because you get to know, you can learn a lot more from other people. Like when I made friends with students from sustainable urban design, so when we have a chat, so they share their side of their studies, so which is like exchanging knowledge. So I share my architecture perspective, they share their urban perspective. So it's really like a beautiful network of students collaborating and socializing at the same time.
That's great. And of course, today we have 3 male students joining us, but I just want to ask what the balance is for your programs in terms of gender. Is it equal roughly between men and women or something like that? Maybe Baiyazeed, you want to answer that one first?
So for the students, yes, we have an equal number, 50-50. I can vaguely, I don't remember vaguely whether I counted right, but it doesn't feel like there is a imbalance because most of our courses are, our projects are, we have to work in groups. And these group works are mostly decided on, we pick our own group mate, and we pick our group mate according when we share the same idea to work with the project. So that kind of narrows, that kind of broadens up to us working in one male, one female, or whether it's different cultures or different countries they work, because as long as we share the same idea, we share the same views, it doesn't matter whether you're working gender or
yeah, great. So it's much more based on interest.
Yes, more on interest. Sorry,
yeah.
thank you.
No, that's fine. And Donaldo?
Yeah, well, sorry to be all guys in this.
Oh no, it happens. It always happens in our webinars, but I just like to mention it.
By any means, does this, at least for the industrial design, this doesn't really reflect the student body. So it's pretty much, I'd say, half and half. So yeah, I mean, there's no like a big gender
bias or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. And Mutaz?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for us, except that we have more females in our program.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same.
That's cool. That's just to get a bit of a picture of what the classroom kind of looks like in different ways. So brilliant. Now I can see that we actually do have a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I'm just going to have a look at those now. And I've seen that there are actually questions about the application process, or rather, it's more specifically about the program specific documents that are requested. So as many of the people viewing may be aware, when you apply to a program such as architecture, there are additional requirements such as a portfolio, for example. And yeah, and the same thing for many of these kinds of programs. You might be expected to write a statement of purpose and this kind of extra document. Now, I don't think that our panelists can really give you any guarantees or any kind of like things which, for example, one of the questions is, should I give more details about each project or a good quantity of projects? I think that level of detail is something that I wouldn't expect to be able to really be answered, if that's a fair point to make, because actually at the end of the day, this will always be down to the program staff, and it will be up to them to look at the picture of the candidate as a whole. So what might work for one applicant may not work for the next applicant, for example, because it's so personal to you as to what your particular motivations might be and what your particular background might be. So for that reason, I won't ask Baiyazeed, for example, to confirm whether you should do this or that, or because that's not really going to be the same for every student. But if anyone has a tip or something that they would like to share about the program specific documents or the portfolio, then of course, please do feel free to do that. If any of you want to say something about that.
Yeah, maybe I can agree with you, Rebecca. You're right. We cannot have like exact. We're not like 100% sure what is it about, but what I can say that our program has people from landscape background, people from architecture background, people from interior background, and people from urban planning background, and yeah, landscape, urban design. So no matter what was your bachelor's, it's not about what did you have or what do you know. It's about what you want to learn about. So yeah, so it's a bit diverse in terms of also the backgrounds. So yeah, if this can be a good tip for you. So if you're architect or urban planner or even interior designer, you can also apply for the program.
That's great to know. That's a really helpful bit of information there. Thank you. Yeah, Baiyazeed, do you have anything to say about that?
As I believe you answered very clearly for us, but Mutaz, what you said is also true. For architecture, it's all up to the applicant. But one tip is I check the question that whether it be detailed or not, it's all up to you or on what you want to show them. I mean, what you're confident about or what you want to emphasize on. So it's all up to the applicant on how much they want to show or how little they want to show. So we do have students who is currently doing their second master's, or many of us have practiced architecture as a profession. But I think it's already mentioned in the application that we can only show our academic work. So it's good to focus on that and not to stress yourself with everything. So it's on the applicant what you are comfortable showing, what you're confident on showing, or what you want them to see as your identity. So
that's another great tip. And what I can do as well is, in a minute, I can share the program pages for each of you guys' programs, so that then anybody watching can check out the guidance on those pages regarding the program specific documents in a bit more detail as well, because that's the best place to really find that information, I would say. It kind of raises a similar question there. Oh, sorry, Donaldo, do you have anything to add to the things about? Yeah.
I think they touched upon the main points of portfolio building, and the thing here is that it's also, I'd say, like, my main tip would be to just be clear with your own values, like your own personal values as a designer. So what do you value the most? Is it like something that's more oriented towards like social progress, or maybe it could be technologically forward design, but just try to set that straight for you and also reflect that in your work. And I think that just it doesn't matter if it's just for this application, but later on, even like just to pursuing your personal professional goals will go a long way.
That's a really brilliant thing to kind of think about, I think, in general, like you said. And I would say that in general, when you apply to Lund University, then something that is always valuable is that authentic connection to whatever you're studying. And people are often, I think, quite surprised by how holistic that process is, in terms of the way that Swedish institutions do like to see the whole person and their whole picture and what they're interested in. So I think that theme comes through all of your answers there. Yes, so it kind of builds on what we've been saying just now. There's a question in the Q&A saying that while work experience isn't a requirement, would you recommend going straight into your master's after finishing a bachelor's degree? And I guess all of you have taken some routes where it sounds like you've worked in between, or was there anybody who went straight from bachelor's to master's? No? So you all worked in between. So that's been your experience. Does anybody want to say anything about that? Like why they, whether that was helpful, for example, or like whether that was, I think some of you mentioned that was part of your journey to this program. But in terms of like people's routes now, if they want to go straight from bachelor's to master's, is that possible? Is it, something that you see from your other people on your course, for example?
I think
anyone can answer.
It's valid. I mean, if you feel that that's the right thing for you in whatever period of your life, I think it's completely valid. I mean, some of my classmates just straight from their bachelor's came to the masters, and they're doing great. And right now they're actually pursuing internships. Whereas, for instance, in my case, since I've already worked, I didn't saw much of an appeal into taking an internship, for instance. But then it's pretty much up to you and how you actually want to shape your professional development.
Yeah, and for me, I did work before applying for masters, and then when I worked, I figured out what things that I want to do and what things I don't want to do, because it become clearer when you work, when you actually put your hands in the mud, as they say, and figure out that there are things that you clearly do not want to do for the rest of your life, and there are things that you want to do for the rest of your life. So it's, yeah, it's personal experience. Yeah, but that's mine.
I also can add in, yes, I do share very young classmates who are very young, who just jumped straight from bachelor's to master's. But it's again what both Donaldo and Mutaz mentioned, that it's all up to your personal preference, or how you have planned your own professional career, how you want to go with your journey. One thing I can add, jumping from bachelor's straight to master's, is maybe you get the opportunity to explore more before you dive yourself into the professional field, because once you go professional, it's more you narrowing down to your own practices, your philosophy. But if you jump from bachelor's to master's, the only advantage is you get more time to explore. So you may be more if you are not clear about where you want to dive in by the time you're done with your master's, you can do your with your bachelor's, you can explore more with your master's and be more in depth, where you want to tap into, or which side you want to focus on, suppose a social or more in terms of architecture, I'm saying more social or more urban, or do you want to be more micro interior or more into housing? So that's one point I can add in. For my practical, yes, I think I can relate to all three of us, that you get the time to learn about the practical life working in a field of practicing architects and designers, and then coming back to your studies, you get the chance to be a student again, like Donaldo, or you can explore more places which you feel you need to after practicing. So it's all up to you. It's all up to your own personal journey.
Brilliant, thank you. So there's a few related questions that perhaps I can ask actually about this. So it sounds like for all three of you, internships or work placements are something which many of your other students on your course have done or are doing. Is that something that the department supports you to investigate, and is it something that any of you are currently or have done or will do this year? Maybe Mutaz, you want to?
Yeah, so for our program, we have 3 students who's doing internship next semester along with their thesis, because you have the option to do the thesis along with an internship. And also the staff in our program actually supports that decision. I had an interview just today before coming here. So for an internship also next semester. So yeah, it's really excellent, and the opportunity is there.
Brilliant. So Donaldo, you mentioned that you didn't choose to do that so far, but is it something you might do this year or not?
Yeah, actually, I didn't pursue an internship because I'm currently working while studying.
Okay.
And I think since I started when this whole COVID thing exploding, I got the chance to keep my previous job and couple that with my studies. So I also wanted to add that, I mean, maybe even after you can just continue from your bachelor's and do your master's, and maybe you can even couple that with a design job at the same time. So don't feel limited that, oh, if this needs to go like this and I stop doing this, then I need to study. I mean, things can also like go alongside. So, yep.
Brilliant. And Baiyazeed?
For me, I have actually done too many internships before I delved into my professional career, because I was very fortunate to intern while in Malaysia when I was doing my bachelor's, and then coming back to my hometown in Bangladesh, I had to intern there as well before diving myself into actual job. I would say doing an internship is a very insightful decision, because you get this opportunity to know about the practical life, know about how the profession is practiced in the industry. So, and doing an internship is a lot more easier than having an actual job, because you're more reliant. You're being taught how to work in the office, or you're being taught how to work in the practical field. So it's a highly recommended thing to do.
Yeah, wonderful. So yes, another related question. Does your program offer any other options for networking or career development? Maybe any of you, if you would like to add something else on top of what we've been talking about with work.
Yeah, for our program, as I told you before, there's a lot of industry lectures and visits. We build some network with even the jury that comes and have comments on our projects. They mostly are architects and designers and urban designers and landscape architects who actually works in the Öresund area or Sweden. But I also have an advice. I would advise students to build their own network also, and not only the one that the program provides. Because yeah, like if someone has plans to stay in Sweden or like to pursue jobs in Sweden after master's degree, that's the most valuable thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip, because there is differences in each country as to the way that the job market is. And one of the things that seems to be important in Sweden is building those opportunities through networking. So yeah, great tip there. So perhaps I can ask, oh wait, I can see a Q&A question. I'll just check what's in there. Okay, so there's a question specifically for Baiyazeed about what software is commonly used in the studio. Would you like to answer that?
So for softwares, yes, it's again, it's up to, I mean, different students are more specialized in different softwares, but I can give a list of, there's Revit, there's ArchiCAD, and I think SketchUp is very well known within many fields. And I would also suggest if you know Rhino and Grasshopper, so that's an added bonus, because some of the courses are like my current course that I'm taking, Spatial Experiments, that is more with 3D printing and robotics or fabrication designing. So they're more reliant on Rhino and Grasshopper scripting. So it's an add. It will help you, but don't be scared. If you don't know, doesn't mean that you're doomed. We have courses on those. They teach us in depth, because there are separate courses called Creative Tools. So this course specially teaches you on Rhino and Grasshopper scripting or Revit. So you will learn all these in separate courses. Lund offers those.
Brilliant, thank you. There's another question in the Q&A about working, so we can finish kind of talking about that on this question. And maybe Donaldo wants to speak on this because you are working. The question is about how this student spent their bachelor's working on the side. Can they do the same thing on the master's? Is there flexibility for people to work part-time? Yeah, maybe you would like to answer that, Donaldo.
Sure. I mean, I can speak for the industrial design masters, and certainly there is a lot of flexibility because in the end, since most of these projects are self-directed, then you get the chance to, I mean, maybe even have a job alongside, but it might also depend a lot on the job you're having. Because right now, for instance, I don't really have, it's not like a full-time job, but it's more of a project-based job in which I pretty much define my own. I mean, I have a deadline, and I can pretty much arrange my how I work. And so far, it has worked for me. Sometimes, kind of, I mean, it can be stressful. Like my pretty much the week blends into the next week because I had like a backlog of work that I couldn't do because I had uni stuff during the week. So that can happen, but I would say that it's certainly possible to couple studies with work in Lund University.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else want to add anything to that?
Yeah, for our program, it's the same, especially that as a student in Sweden, you have the right to work also. Your visa is valid for working, so you can work. And yeah, for sustainable urban design, we have a flexible schedule also, but I wouldn't advise you to go for a full-time, of course, because you're not gonna survive a week or two maybe with this.
Yeah, that's something that we often actually do say when people ask us this question in my team as well. We often say that although you do have the ability to work alongside your studies based on your student residence permit, it can be a lot to juggle because you are expected to work, you know, at least around 40 hours a week normally on your studies. And then if you add a job on top of that, it can be difficult. It's also important to note that when you do apply for a residence permit, you have to show that you have enough funding to support yourself already. So you can't actually count on getting a job for financial reasons. So that's just something that's important to note. It can be quite competitive to find work in a student city like Lund with lots of people looking for work. So I don't know if you guys agree with me on that one, but it can be a little bit tricky. So it's just some things to be aware of, really. Okay, I'm going to just ask you one or two more questions about the program, and then we will talk a little bit about outside of studies. Because it seems like your programs have a very high focus on independent work, project work, studio work, etc. So perhaps you'd like to comment a little on the facilities which are available to you. We talked about software, but also if there's anything that you would like to add about the kinds of facilities that are there, libraries, studios, etc. Mutaz, would you like to start?
Yeah. For sustainable urban design, we have studios in the same building of architecture also. The studios are mainly desks, and we have some supercomputers in the same studio that you can use if your laptop crashed or something. And also we have a lunch area that's attached almost to every studio that has that's also like ready for preparing your lunch or heating it. And we have a library that is like one for architecture and one for sustainable urban design, a smaller one, I would say. But it has most of the books that you will you want to read or you happen to get information from. We have the facilities that also help you to do the models. We have the wood workshop, the 3D laser printers, and the laser cutters machines. And yeah, but my advice to you guys to buy most of your tools that you need from your home countries. It's a bit expensive here in Sweden. The markers, the pens, the pencils. Maybe here you can like buy the papers or yeah the model making material, but I would say the pencils and markers and watercolors and everything that you need, I I would advise you to grab it from your country, and that's a good advice. I'm sure.
Good tip. Donaldo?
Sure. Well, in the Industrial Design Masters, our studios are located in the Ingvar Kamprad Design Center,
Oh,
and
beautiful building.
yes,
Yeah.
indeed. If you are into brutalist architecture, this will be your thing. And yeah, the facilities are great. I mean, we have workshops for like pretty much every family of materials. So we have wood workshop, metals workshop, ceramics, textiles as well. So it's quite varied, and you have full access to all of it while you're studying here. In terms of technology, we have 3D printers, CNC milling machines. So you have full access to all of that. So in that sense, you're not really limited.
Great. And Baiyazeed, would you like to add anything?
I think I can add something unorthodox. We have sleeping areas. We have a showering area. So if you need to camp or if you need to stay in the studio for a couple of days, because I know we all have to do that during our final submissions. And so you're more than welcome. We have a bunker, so you can sleep, you can heat your food, you can even cook your food if you like. And the amenities are very nearby. We have an ICA supermarket, which is just 2 minutes walk. So it's great to have that. We have this outdoor gym facility. I think it's just a minute walk away from the A building, and also from the industrial design building. We have this outdoor gym facility. So, and yes, our campus is filled with greenery, so you can just see the trees. You can camp outside. If it's the summertime, if you want to work outside, it's always there. We have benches. You can have lunch outside. So yes, it's a wonderland.
That's great. And I had no idea that there was those kinds of facilities for you guys. So that's really
Oh yes,
cool.
we also have a piano if you're into music. So yes.
That's great. Cool. So I would really like to ask you, I mean, I feel like we've touched on so many interesting things about all of your programs, but is there one thing that is your favorite thing about your program that you would really like to share? We could again go to Mutaz.
Yeah, sure. My favorite part about SUDES, Sustainable Urban Design, is the international community that we are in, and I would say the SUDES family, because we are a family. We do international dinner every other week. We gather and have to know about cultures, and the other thing is the group work. Most of our projects are group work. You learn a lot to be a team member, how to improve the ideas together, even though you are from very, very different countries or cultures or even backgrounds, but you're still improving one idea to make the best out of it. This is a big thing, and yeah, I admire it about our program.
Donaldo?
Yeah, for me, it's how open it is, and you're never really constrained. So it's pretty much up to you, and you pretty much defining what are your goals. So I think that's the most valuable asset from the program for me, because I mean, in the end, once you're out there, I mean, no one really is going to be following you, telling you so what's next for your career? I mean, that doesn't really happen. So being part of this program and already questioning yourself this in your studies, I think it will help you along in your professional life.
Brilliant. And Baiyazeed?
It's very similar, but I love how our culture is. We are very inclusive, so we are always open to sharing our ideas, and we are always very keen to learning about each other within our group or our batch. We have something similar. We also try to connect or do something during the weekend. So we try organizing a small dinner, or we go sightseeing together. So we're always active within ourselves, trying to come up with something insightful or an event, or yes. So it makes you feel welcomed. It makes you feel home. So it doesn't make you feel like you're away, or it doesn't make you feel, you know.
That's really good. That's wonderful. And it kind of does lead on to the next questions that I had, which were really about the experience of student life as international students. So it sounds like you felt welcomed. It sounds like you've been able to make great friends on your programs, which is wonderful. Is there anything else which you are involved in outside of your studies, which you think has been helpful for making friends, for example, making connections, or yeah, just anything you would like to share about what you get involved with outside of outside of your academic life? We could start actually with you, Baiyazeed, if you want to go backwards.
Yes, apart from my studies, I do try. So I've been volunteering with Engineers Without Border. So they're an NGO, NGO, student NGO. We've been working with many exciting projects in Tanzania. And this gives me the window to not just thinking about architecture, but also other parts, because my role there is being a PR manager. So I'm handling their social media. I'm able to dive into my other creative hobby of being into graphics design. So I'm designing posters or social media banners or something. So it's a great window for me to just not think about our studies sometimes. And other than that, during my first year, I was also involved in the student nations. I was being a foreman, and also again, same role. I was being their graphics foreman. So I also designed their events, posters and banners, and social media contents. So these are there, and this also helps us networking among students, not just within your program, but also from other departments. I've made friends from the engineering department, the mechanical engineers, or even medicine, or students studying medicine, or from music or from arts. So it helps you network in different places. It's a great opportunity. There's always an event coming up, and you're always invited if you want to volunteer. If you're good at cooking, so these nations, they always post like, hey, we need these many people handling the kitchen for this event, or would you so many stuff. I mean, it's hard to get bored here in Lund.
That's great. And just to explain, do you want to briefly just explain what is a nation, like just for anyone who hasn't heard of that? It's something that's quite famous about Lund University, but if you had to explain what it is in a sentence, what would you say?
So I think the best one way to define a nation is it's us making us feel home. It's a nation is just the bridge to really make you connect. If you are an international student, or if you're even being a local and you're new to Lund, it's the perfect opportunity to network, communicate, and know people in a very short amount of time. So we have a lot of nations, I think around 7 to 8 nations. You get to pick your own nations, and each nation is special for so special in the sense the activities they do. So some nations are well known for their music events. Some nations are well known for their health and well-being. Some are with sports, some are with dramas and play. So it also helps you, your interest or your hobby, something that you like to do other than your studies. And these nations help you be more comfortable, or help you network people with common interest.
Brilliant, thank you. Donaldo, are you involved with anything outside of your studies?
Sadly, I haven't gotten much of a time to doing so. But
I guess you're working, as you mentioned, and there's other things going on. Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah, just as it's been mentioned before, there's a bunch of activities always going on. So, I mean, you'll always have something to do in Lund.
And Mutaz?
Yeah, for me, I have more of a different experience, because I am a SI scholar from the Swedish institution. So I've been the events director for a Swedish institution network for global leaders. And I've been doing events with international fika, some visits, some trips, some hiking, some cultural events and so on. But the other thing that I want to say, as a web developer, and I have my own project, I would say Lund is the land of opportunities. I've been to many places here in Lund where I can learn more about marketing, about business ideas, about startups, about entrepreneurship. And I think this is a big thing in Lund, and maybe it's not in our program, but it's worth mentioning. Ni Talk Centrum, which is like how to open your company, a venture lab, which is related to Lund and also support you to build up your idea and improve it. Kona Startups, International Citizen Hub, many of these institutions help you to get more knowledge about how to be a proper entrepreneur with proper knowledge about the business and the market. Yeah.
Great. I've noticed we have one more question in the Q&A about summer. So obviously the spring semester or that side of the year finishes in June and then you start again in August. So do any of your programs, or perhaps as we've been talking about, any of the things that you're involved with outside of your program, run activities during summer? I know it's normally quite a quiet time, but does anyone know anything or can share anything that they've been doing over summer?
Yeah, Lund turns to a ghost city in summer.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and even I was shocked when I learned that even like architecture offices and most of the offices close even in summer for a whole month and a half.
Yes. Yeah, it's very good to be aware of that. I think that it is a quiet time on campus. It's dead. People are away.
The beach is
because
every day.
Yeah, exactly. And the wonderful thing from a perspective of an employee in Sweden is that you have the right to take a long summer break.
Yeah.
But the difficult part of that is that many services are reduced
Yes.
during the summer, to say the least. So that's just something that's probably good for people to be aware of. And actually that leads really nicely on to my last question about student life, really, which is, was there anything which surprised you about Sweden? So this could be relating to your program. Perhaps it's to do with the academic differences that you might have experienced from your home academic experience. Or perhaps it's more of a culture shock thing that you really didn't expect in Sweden. Would each of you like to perhaps share something? Maybe we can go to Baiyazeed.
Well, the only thing that was shocking to me was the winter. It's very long and it's very dark. So please be prepared. The nights, they're only nights. There's no sun. So you have to be prepared with your vitamin D tablets. So be well prepared with your supplements. Other than that, yes, Lund is very welcoming. It's very inclusive. Just the winters, yes, it can take a mental toll on you, and especially if you're studying architecture or design, it can be tedious. Because I would like to put one comment to our previous question about why we do not have anything to do in summer, because during the winter there is a very short break. We only get a 12 to 20 days break for Christmas, and in between we still keep our courses going. So it gets really tiring. That's why I personally, my personal experience, that I chose not to do anything during summer, because I had a very tedious, a very lengthy course, 2 semesters. So it's nice to have just to relax yourself. So
I think that's such a brilliant thing to mention for people, and that seasonal impact across the year is something that I also experienced moving here to Sweden. And on the one hand, I love it, especially in the summer when it is those long evenings and the beautiful weather, and you can go and enjoy nature nearby and swim in a lake if you want to and things like that. But then in the winter, you do have to adjust to those very dark days. And I found that the best way for me is to really embrace the coziness and to have those, the blankets and then. But it was an adjustment. It took me a little while to get used to it. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Donaldo, was there anything you would like to share about anything that surprised you?
I can agree. I mean, I think I also, it worked for me in the same way. So I was kind of like working very hard, all of this like through the winter, since I mean, okay, it's dark outside, so there's not much to really do. So, okay, let's just work hard during these 2 semesters and have a really nice summer and enjoy this time outdoors. I think that's beautiful. And as far as a shock, I think it's maybe like, maybe it is in my home country, but it's just general conception of Swedes being a bit like shy or cold, but I think that's not so true. I mean, they're super welcoming. So I mean, if anything, it was like this very positive shock in that sense. Yeah.
That's great to hear. And Mutaz?
Yeah, for me, the shock was the quiet of Lund, but like the whole Sweden also is quiet, even Stockholm. Because yeah, coming from a 4 million people city, Lund was like a village or something. But
Yeah,
that's so good, because like in a year or so, you almost know everyone in the streets. It's like it's like it feels like super cozy, and yeah, but prepare for a very quiet night.
that's a brilliant point as well. And of course, it will depend on where you're coming from as to whether it feels like the tiniest town in the world or the biggest, depending on your background. But it's definitely a nice thing about Sweden, I think, that there is a lot of space in that regard. Like you have a relatively small population for a really large geographical area. So that's something that's good to know, I think. Oh, brilliant. Well, I feel like we've had such great answers from all of you, really detailed, really interesting. And I hope that those who are watching have enjoyed your answers. I'm going to share a couple of links in the chat, just so that if anybody has any further questions, if they would like to speak to other students, such as our panelists, we have a Unibuddy scheme, which a couple of you are actually signed up to. So if anybody would like to continue talking to our students, you're very welcome to do that through these links. Also, again, as I mentioned at the start, we have many more upcoming virtual events, including our application week, which runs from 22nd of November. That's a really good week if you would like to get some tips about your application, or just join us for various different events that week, which highlight different areas that you might be interested in at our university. I will also share the program pages for this particular subject area, because that's a great place to get the information that you need about these programs, which our 3 panelists are from. So I'll share those links in the chat. And then in the meantime, I'll just ask each of you to add anything that you may have, final advice, tips, thoughts that you just want to share before we finish. So maybe we can go to Mutaz.
Can you repeat again? I was.
Oh, sorry. It's just if there's anything else that you would like to share to end on, something else, a tip or anything else that you'd like to.
No, I think yeah, I have mentioned. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about the Swedish language a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention. So have you found that you needed to have Swedish, for example?
I would say it's very important to learn Swedish, especially if you want to get more involved in the industry, or like even practice or a part-time job or any concentration, even like just to feel like you're engaging more with the community. And there's a lot of free of charge and supported from government programs like the SFE, Swedish for immigrants. And when you finish the SFE, there's also another programs that you can join. So you can improve as much as you want with the language using these programs. Yeah.
Great. Donaldo, is there any last messages you would like to give anybody watching?
Yes, and that is that, I mean, just going abroad, I mean, it is kind of like this very big hassle, like, okay, paperwork, visa, translate this and that. And I mean, just take it easy and enjoy the process, and just come to Lund with an open mind and an open heart. And yeah, I wish you the best for your upcoming studies.
That's a great message. And Baiyazeed?
I don't really have, but I think Mutaz and Donaldo both covered very important parts. But don't be scared. Don't be
Yes,
scared.
don't be scared.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
a nice.
everyone's here is an international student. Everyone is in the same boat as you. Everyone is with the same thought. Everyone is with the same expectation. So you will don't worry about not making friends, being lonely. No, that is all a myth. You will instantly make friends. You will instantly be joining events, and there's always something to do which is within our interest. There's always something, whether it be hiking or gaming or be painting, anything. Lund offers everything because it's a city of opportunity. It's a city of opportunity. It's a city of openness. Everyone can be themselves, and everyone can even explore more what they're within their interest. So we
That's
are very
wonderful.
welcoming. Yes.
Yeah, I feel inspired just having had this chat with you guys for the past hour. So I really hope that others who are watching enjoyed this. And yeah, we hope to see you in Lund at some point. Thank you again to all of our panelists for your time and your very insightful answers. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.